time management is stress management. Today our presenter is Andrew Hayes. I'm Kristen Lowry with Purdue Extension, and we're happy to have you all here to be in this series and to continue with next week, as we have one more week in our series for November. And then we are excited to say that we will be opening up again in January with a new series. We're going to take the month of December to let everyone's minds kind of ease as you're preparing in between the two holidays. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and I'll let Andrew take it away.
Okay, so I think that it's pretty clear, the link between stress and time management. I don't know too many adults who say they just don't know what to do with all the time on their hands. And if you're here, that's probably an indicator that, you find that some days are really stressful because you don't know how to fit everything in. My wife and I, we have 3 kids, and so there's a lot going on in terms of dropping off our kids in the morning and coordinating that. And if, either one of us or both of us have 8 o'clock meetings, trying to race to work afterward and getting there on time. And there's, dance and soccer practice and all that other kind of stuff too. And so, in addition to just trying to get stuff within work all to fit in, then you've got work-life balance and trying to fit all that stuff in. And, sometimes I feel like, wow, we're really on top of things. It's like this, it's like the Philharmonic, we're orchestrating this thing and all of the instruments are coming in on time, and the cues are there and the performance is there. And it just takes little things to remind you of just how delicate the time management that we have in place is. And this might, you might find this too, where anxiety suddenly kicks in when traffic is just a little bit worse than it normally is. Or you're in line at the grocery store and the line's just a little bit longer, or you can't find a space, or you're trying to get coffee before work and the line is extra long, or anything that just kind of takes you out of like your normal pace of the day. All of a sudden you can feel that anxiety build, right? And that's not even, considering, if something major were to happen, like you get a flat tire or anything like that. I'm just talking about little things that can really kind of set you off, and you can feel that adrenaline going, oh my gosh, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? So, and not only that, it's, when you're trying to pack your days, are you going to bed later than you probably wanted to, or you plan to, or you say, man, how did it get this late already? Do you find yourself doing chores at the end of the day when you should be getting ready for bed? I know, I find myself going, oh, I need to do my laundry, and, so it can manifest itself in different ways for different people. But today, I'm hoping that we can figure out exactly, understand how you actually spend your time, and then maybe finding ways to tweak your schedule and to work things to what maybe it's a little bit more manageable for you, and therefore decreasing your stress. So let's see, learning objectives, learning how poor time management causes stress, identify how you actually spend your time, learn methods to better organize the time you actually have. And then I do want to talk a little bit about the significance of spending time on self-care, and that it's something that should not be ignored. It not only is it good for you, but not having it can be bad for you. So to maybe move it up on the priority list. So we'll talk about that as we kind of go through this. So where does your time go? So this is where you need a sheet of paper, pencil, pen, a calculator. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and estimate where your time goes for a week. So that means for things like sleep, you're going to take about how much sleep that you get and times that times 7. So we're calculating this for the week. So I found that using decimals, if you're trying to get it down to the half hour, decimals work a lot better. I mean, if you're on the calculator and all that. So, but we really want to try to figure out, where is your time going? Where do you spend your time? So, you want to include, don't forget meals, commute time is something that it has to be accounted for. You have to get up and get ready. Do you shower in the morning? You shower in the evening? But how long does all that take? If you're doing it, you need to document it. We're talking about a week, so we're talking weekends here. So if you spend a lot of time, doing yard maintenance, if you've got a garden that you take time, like that all is calculated into this. So what I want you to do is to try and add those up and see, I want to know what your total hours are for the week. So if you want to do that, get that going. So here's some of the topics that I was just talking about. Also, regularly scheduled weekly events. If you, volunteer at your church, every Wednesday night, got to account for that. If you're, if you go to the gym on a regular basis, so those sorts of things. So once you've kind of calculated what your weekly total is, if you could, I think if you go to the chat box and send it directly to Kristen, if you don't want people knowing what your particular number is, she can just kind of give numbers out and not necessarily associate it to your name. But I just kind of want to know where people might be. Yeah, and then there's these. These are some things that we kind of mentioned before with some yard work and laundry. There's also grocery shopping. Kristen, just let me know when you're starting to get numbers in. And
I haven't received any numbers, but I did just put on there the link to the website.
oh, great.
We do have a question though. One is asking, is work supposed to be included in this time schedule that they're giving us?
Absolutely. If you spend time doing it, it's got to be in there. And that's a big one, right? So I know that, for a lot of people working full time, it's at least 40 hours. So sometimes more than that. So, and again, we want to be realistic. Like if you say I work full time and you just throw in 40 hours for the week, but the reality is you spend a lot of extra time doing things. You work late in the office, or maybe you take something home and work on it on the weekends. Like we're trying to really understand where your time goes. So, being real with yourself and saying, how much do I actually spend doing this? And it could be, also hobbies, if you're a gamer, how much time do you actually spend on your phone playing a game, or on the computer playing a game, or whatever, or watching television? Is there, a show that you watch every week? That sort of a thing. So we want to have this as accurate as possible. And I'm not going to break down anybody's content of what they do, but I kind of do want to see what kind of hours we're getting total for the week.
We have one individual that said 158 hours.
Okay.
And another has added in the chat box that they are a domestic engineer. And so they're working all the time, and it is very hard to calculate the things that they are doing separately, such as multitasking, eating lunch, and watching our webinar right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into strategic multitasking later, but it sounds like, somebody's already kind of got that part figured out to some extent. I'll give you guys a couple minutes more because I know math is not my favorite thing. So if you need a couple more minutes to kind of figure it out.
Maybe Andrew, refresh their memory again. What all are the hours they're adding up?
Anything that they spend time doing. I mean, it's, sleep, work, commute times, personal hygiene, socializing. If you go to a parent's house, every week and spend time, if you volunteer at the school on a regular basis, we're just trying to figure out, and this is the personal part. So for everybody, it's different, and so it's hard to do a one size fits all because it doesn't. But for you, just to be real and try to give yourself a real accurate understanding of how you spend your time. But not forget. Oh, go ahead.
We have another participant saying 140 hours.
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to have to personally, so I just add in a couple more things while we got numbers going in. We've got 168 hours.
Uh-huh.
For a lot of you, you might be multitaskers, going back to what Leah had said, and you might spend all but, your sleeping hours multitasking and doing something to prepare for the next day.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of get to kind of the reason behind this activity. So, the fact is there are 168 hours in a week. That is a fact that no one can change. I started doing kind of a version of time management when I worked full-time at institution of higher learning and working with students. And I would have, students come in and they would be struggling with a class, and, you kind of do this activity with them and you find out that, they're taking full-time classes, they're working full-time, they may have a child, they've got all this other kind of stuff, and they're not, it's not like they're incapable of doing the work. They're not getting the grades they want because they simply don't have the time that they need to do it correctly, right? So my message to them is, I don't care if you're a genius at something, you cannot put more than 168 hours in a week, right? And I would also posit that if you feel like you're stressed out and you're one of the folks that said that, you calculated your time and you only came up with 140, you've got some missing hours there because you've got some wiggle room there. And if you feel like you don't, then you need to go back through this activity again and refine it and say, where are my hours going? Because I'm feeling like I don't have enough, right? So I think someone said they actually had 168 hours, which, man, you are right on the money. But that means if something slips out of place, like I was saying, if traffic goes a little bit wonky on you, you're going to really feel it, right? And if you've got anything above 168 hours, well, now you're going to have to figure out, how can I manage the things that I have to do in a better way so that it's not wearing me down and burning me out. So, so the thing is, you want to make sure that you have the time to do things well, right? So if you're taking on too many things, you don't want to be in a situation where you give all these different things that you've got going on 60%, because that's the only time you have. So we'll see if we can figure out how to manage your time in a little bit more of a friendly way for yourself. So let's do that. All right, top 5 ways to find more time. Use a calendar, and actively use a calendar, right? So I have people in my life that I'm guilty of having my life on my phone because I have it with me at work. I have it with me at all times. And it helps me out because, a lot of times I have to be at different places, and I'll have to schedule something no matter where I am. And so having that has just been a very useful tool for me to keep me organized. But I do know a lot of folks that like the paper calendars, like this picture here, and they carry those with them. And so the thing is to actively use it. So if you have it, use it to plan, right? Take it with you wherever you go. So whenever you need to schedule something, you'll have it there, and you'll be able to say, oh, I can't do that. I've got something already booked for that time, right? Your calendar does no good if you don't check it. So you need to check it at least every day. You need to have no surprises, right? And you want to have plenty of time to prepare for anything. So, when you check it, you want to see what's going on for the next day. What's going on next week? Do I have any kind of big projects coming up that are coming due? Am I making the progress on those things that I need to, right? So check it regularly. Share it. So this is a big one. So for the people in your life, to be able to share your calendar is a big deal, so they know when you're not available, or they know when you've got something big going on, so they can be sensitive. Oh, I know that she's got this big presentation coming up next week, and she's got to prepare for it. I need to support her in that, or whatever. I know that they aren't available to do these things. The other interesting thing about sharing a calendar is it makes it easier for folks to understand how busy you are. And so it's not necessarily that you're telling them that you can't, volunteer to do something after school. See my calendar, it's just booked. It's not me saying no, it's the calendar, it's the time I'm already booked. And so it allows you to protect your time as well. And again, it prevents you from overbooking. So share your calendar with people in your life on the regular. I mean, that's a big thing here where I work, is I want to make sure that people know when I'm available, when I'm not available. And so I have my calendar open to everybody here in my office. And then follow it, right? So if you're going to write it down, and if you're going to have it, you need to follow it. So it sounds simple, but it's just, again, it goes with checking it and just making sure that you know where you're supposed to be, and you're getting things done. And again, the big thing is kind of also checking in with what's going on in the next couple of weeks. Are you on track to achieve those tasks and goals that you set ahead of time. So keeping deadlines. So, and then again, keeping it with you. It's a big thing. I don't know how many times I've gotten a text somewhere. I'm at my son's soccer game or wherever I am. I get an email or whatever, or a text from somebody saying, hey, can you do, I ran into this. Can you cover for me tomorrow? Or can you do this? Are you able to do whatever? And you may be able to compartmentalize that and say, oh, let me do that after I get home, or let me check on that in the morning. It's more effective for me to make sure I can do it right then and there. So I will pull up the calendar and I will make sure that work, and I try to get that out as soon as possible. And so having that with me enables me to make sure that I'm on track, and I can get back to a person and say, yes, that works, or no, that doesn't work. So keeping it with you. So calendar, huge, got to do it. Okay, prioritize. Now, there's a couple ways to look at this. And so what I look at is irreversible responsibilities, right? So these are things that you cannot change, right? Or you don't want to change for sure, like work, right? You have to go to work, then work is an irreversible responsibility. So that has to be, accounted for first and foremost, right? You have a kid, you've got to take care of them. If they're young, super young, that's going to take more time to account for that. If you've got to pick them up at a certain time, if you've got to any kind of responsibility that you cannot change, those are the things that just have to lock in that calendar first and foremost, right? So they're irreversible responsibilities, okay? And once you get past those commitments, then you can work in those personal preferences, right? And you can say, well, I want to work out, so many times. I really want to, learn how to play the violin. I really want to do all these different. So that's whenever you can kind of see, well, what can I sprinkle in here, right? And again, this is individual. So for one person, volunteering at their church might be a personal preference. Another person might see that as an irreversible responsibility. So, you have to kind of define these for yourself. But the idea is those irreversible responsibilities, whatever you identify those have to get scheduled in first. And then the rest gets put in. Now, once you have done that and you're plotting everything out and you're looking at your week and you're going, oh man, I really wanted to sign up for this online class, or I really wanted to, incorporate something in addition, and you run out of space, well, then you got to have a parking lot, because those may be good ideas. Those may be important, but they just don't fit right now. And so there could be, with time and schedules, there could be an ebb and flow, especially to your work or to things going on. I know right now, our family is in a nice lull now because soccer season just ended. And so we just have kind of practices here and there, but we're not, going to 3 games a week like we were last month. And so for us, our calendar in the evening opened up a little bit. And so maybe things that we had in the parking lot now, we can maybe look and say, oh, well, maybe we can put that in, that, that thing that we wanted to put in, and now we have time to do that. So prioritizing in terms of planning out your time, this is a method I think is really helpful in doing that. Okay, strategize. Number 3. So strategic and realistic multitasking, right? So someone said they were watching this and eating lunch. Perfect. So the thing that you want to do is, whenever you're trying to intentionally multitask, is that you want to make sure that the quality toward the things that you're doing don't decrease to the point where you're making mistakes or you're going to have to go back and fix it later. So trying to be realistic and say, you know, I can do this. So one of the things that I'll do is, for instance, if I have grading that I need to do for a class that I'm teaching, I will take my son to soccer practice, and I will sit in my car and I will grade in the car. And then I'll you know, pop my head up and see what's going on in practice from time to time. But it's a clear opportunity for me to get stuff done. You know, he's there, he's safe. When practice is done, he's got to ride home. I'm right there, but I'm able to get stuff done. And so that's, you know, taking him to practice and getting that done, getting grading done, not taking time away from anything else, and not distracting myself to the point where I'm not doing a good job. It's a great opportunity. So that's for me, that's just an example in my life that's worked for me. But the key point is, if you're doing things that can be taken down to the level where you're not doing them to the level that you want to do them, or you're going to have to redo them, then maybe that's not a thing that you should multitask. Okay, so divide and conquer. This is a great one for trying to fit in these big, ginormous projects. Again, my background is in higher education, and so what I would always talk to students about, you know, these big midterm papers that they had to do is, you know, okay, so you want to divide and conquer because this paper seems enormous and it's just this huge, big, giant thing, and you just want to like crawl under the covers and not even deal with it. But you know, if you can create your outline and say, okay, so my first task is create the outline, and don't think about the whole paper, just create the outline, right? And then the next task is, you know, do your background research, you know, do the lit review and find all that, okay? Well, that's the second thing, okay? And then you've got different parts to the paper, the introduction, you know, the body of it, answering individual questions that might be on the rubric and all that. But the point is, you're taking something large and breaking up it into pieces. A better example might be, if you're like me, my garage is just always a work in progress. And so I'm always trying to reorganize it and try to find more room and find better room for things. And so for me, organizing the garage, I may say, because when I walk in my garage, I just see all the things that are out of place and need to be organized. But if I say, you know what, this weekend, I'm just going to focus on the kids' toys, their bikes, their sporting equipment, you know, any kind of other things, jump ropes and just hula hoops and all that stuff. I'm going to organize that and get that situated. Or it might be my tools, or it might be something else. But instead of saying, I gotta organize the garage, that's just too much. And so you procrastinate, you don't want to do it, or you try to do it and it's just not efficient. So divide and conquer can help you break it down and into more digestible clumps, and so that you're able to do it in a methodical way that doesn't seem overwhelming and can start chopping away at it, right? And be persistent. You know, it's for something like that, it just takes persistence, and I always, you know, use the analogy, you know, keep chopping that wood, especially, you know, to my kids when they're trying to get something big done and, oh, Dad, this assignment is just taking forever and I got this. I'm like, hey, where are you in the process? What part of the process are you on? Keep chopping that wood. Just keep going. Just keep going. You know, it's okay to be in the moment for a second and be a little stressed out and say, this is tough, because it is. That's great. But you got to keep chopping that wood. So that's what the X represents there. All right, number four. Number four. Protecting your mental and physical health. Okay. So lack of self-care can reduce productivity, weaken your immune system to be more vulnerable to illness and allow anxiety to spread. So what that means is you have, if you don't take care of yourself, you could potentially lessen your productivity, particularly at work. Your boss doesn't think that you're as productive as you should be. You get sick all the time, right? You're going to get, you may not be putting your best foot forward to get the promotion that you want, right? And now money's being eliminated. Opportunities to earn additional income is being taken away from you. So I say that sometimes folks are just like, I'm fine or whatever. But whenever you start equating it to, well, you could be kind of stunting your opportunity for economic growth, to get the promotion, to get the raise, to get those kinds of things that you want to do in terms of earning more income. Sometimes that speaks to people, so I wanted to include that. But the reality is, if you're feeling stressed, time management will help, but scheduling physical activity to kind of get that negative energy out, to have an outlet for that frustration in a healthy way. I think, I find that, especially as I get older, it's not easy to work out. There's a million things I can distract myself and say that I don't have time for it. So I find if I put it in the calendar and I share the calendar, then I'm able to work out. And, it's one of those things where sometimes I get, down in the basement where I work out, and I'm just like, I'm just so tired. I just can't. Every time I work out, I feel more energized than I did whenever I started. It's a weird thing, but it's important. Trying to eat as healthy as you can. Extension. A lot of our educators do some excellent programs on healthy eating and creative ways to incorporate healthy foods into a regular diet. There's a ton of that stuff, and so I would invite you to look at some of the stuff that Purdue Extension, our educators, are offering, because there's a lot of great stuff. But it's important, right? I tell my son all the time, he's fashions himself as this athlete, but the boy loves sugar. He loves candy. He loves all that kind of stuff. And I tell him, garbage in, garbage out, man. Garbage in, garbage out. I try to just make it as simple as possible. I don't want to browbeat him, but I just want to remind him, look at what we have here as options for you. And we are very mindful in our family of trying to have a healthy diet, healthy options available for our kids. But if the better you eat, the better you'll feel. It's true. And like I said, look up those Purdue Extension opportunities to learn more about how to incorporate healthy food into your diet. It's worth it, and you'll feel better and you'll be healthier. Get quality sleep. That's an important one. Some people can function on less sleep than 8 hours, the recommended 8 hours. I would try to get at least 8 hours if you can, but it's also the quality of your sleep. If you're tossing and turning, sometimes you can't help it if you've got, a 2-year-old child or younger, that's just part of parenting, but quality sleep is important. So make that a priority in your life, because these are all things that are going to make you feel better. It's going to, again, make you, allow you to be as productive as you can be, right? As much as you can build up your immune system to avoid getting sick, the better, right? Nobody wants to be sick, right? And again, especially the physical activity. And I'm not talking about going and lifting weights or whatever. Like, this is a picture of a person just walking in their neighborhood, right? Just getting out there and getting an opportunity. And I can't tell you enough about the opportunity to go for a walk and blow off steam and clear your head. And so that's the other thing I don't have on this slide, but giving yourself the mental space available. Oh, there you go. Somebody's working out right now. There's a multitasker. So the thing is, you want to give yourself that mental capacity to kind of think and be a person, be a human. I always tell my kid, you know, if I think he's on his phone a little too much, I'm like, put the phone down and be a person. You know, go to your room or go for a walk, do something where you can be active, but your mind is free to roam or not, right? So I think those are all important things because you want to be as productive as possible. You don't want to be sick, right? And again, we're trying to achieve that lowering of the stress level. So this is one that I really encourage you to try to schedule and put on your priority list. All right, so give yourself permission to say no. Again, I've talked before about using your calendar as the bad guy. I can't encourage this enough, and this is the number one way that you will find to add more time for yourself to do the things that you want to do, because as a capable person, you will always be called upon by others to do something, to help out, to do whatever, right? And so, you know, I started incorporating this whenever I went to college. And, you know, one of the things that I try to think about is, you know, what's going to matter in a year? What's going to matter in 5 years? And so when I went to college, a lot of my friends did not go to college. And so I'm taking on, and I'm working full time, I'm taking on this extra thing that I don't necessarily have to do, but it's important to me. And I would, tonight's Monday night, the Bears are playing. So I don't have college anymore. So I'll be watching that tonight. But I used to get this call before. And I would have these papers due. I would have all these assignments and things that I needed to do. And my friends would be, hey, come on over. We got beer. Let's go. Let's watch the game or whatever. And, you know, it's not that I didn't want to do it, but I had to say no. And I said, you know, man, I want to, but I've got this paper I've got to work on, and I've got to do it. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to get the grade on the paper that I want. And if I don't get the grade on the paper that I want, then I'm not going to get the grade in the class that I want. And if I don't get the grade in class that I want, I'm not going to have the overall GPA that I want to get, because I had aspirations to go to graduate school, right? So all these different things, and I had to say, is going over there and watching the game helping me toward my goals, or is it not? So that's an extreme example. But it's also trying to figure out, you know, if someone says, can you volunteer for this? Can you, you know, do a fundraiser for the school? You know, in my heart, I want to say yes. Of course, I want to help the school. You know, I want to, you know, be an involved parent as I possibly can. But then I look at my calendar and I'm like, don't know how I'm going to fit this in. I just, you know, and I, you know, I got asked to do a couple similar things this year for like some of the sporting programs, and I said, look, I'm in full support, and you know, I want to help where I can, but I don't want to sign on for something that I'm not going to do a good job of. And this deserves someone who has the time to do the job that this endeavor, you know, deserves. And so if I can only give it 60%, that's not fair to what needs to be done. And that's all I literally have time to do. And so it's not easy to do. And if it's something, again, that you're trying to do on a regular basis, eventually people are going to come to understand you probably don't have time to do it. And it just becomes easier as you go through it. The first time you tell somebody no, I mean, I know I still kind of be like, oh, I feel bad, I just let that person down. But, you know, I'd rather do that then than sign up for it. And now I'm double booked. And now I'm to the point where I'm not going to be able to do the job that to the level that that job, you know, deserves. And now I'm letting them down in a worse way than just saying no, right? So, but again, use your calendar, you know, book yourself. And, you know, when someone says, can you do this? Then you have something in front of you saying, gosh, you know, I would, but I have this scheduled and, you know, so I can't do that. So, but this will be the way for you to find more time, probably more than anything else we talked about today. So learn and give yourself permission to say no. Okay, so now this is the time to get that sheet that Kristen had the link in the chat box there. So it's a weekly schedule sheet. This guy right there. So when you have that, I would say to fill it out the time period, which is the hours of the day, I would start with 6 a.m. in the first box, that box in the upper left-hand corner. And then just go from there, 6, 7, 8. So if you've got something that would start at 7 o'clock on Sunday, 7 a.m., it would be, you know, the box there right next to the 7, right? So, and if you need to break it down into half hours, you can draw a horizontal line, and then you could make, like, if you put it in the first box, it would be 6, and then you draw a line, and then the second little box that you created would be 6:30 if you want to do it that way. But what you're going to do is we're going to look at you as if you've been hired to be a time management consultant for Chris. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at what Chris has going on, and you're going to try to create a schedule that's workable. Okay. So a couple of things that we wanted to put in there. I just put Chris because it, you know, it could be a guy or a girl. I want you to be able to kind of put yourself in their shoes to kind of see what is feasible, right? So a couple of facts there about Chris's spouse. I don't want you to be like, the husband will make dinner, or you know what I mean? I don't want you to just use a cop-out to say, well, somebody else will do that. So I've put in a couple of different things to make it a little bit more challenging, because often it is more challenging than that. So here's a couple of kind of the facts about Chris. So they got a 14-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter, and a dog. Chris's mother lives a 15-minute car drive away, but she does not drive. Chris works full-time, but and does not always get a full hour for lunch. So sometimes it works out that some things can be done on the lunch, and sometimes the lunch isn't even, it's barely enough time to even eat anything. So these are kind of the ground rules for that. All right. So this is Chris's life. So with a list like this, what's the first thing that you're going to want to do, right? Well, this goes back to when we talk about prioritizing. So you need to look at this and identify the irreversible responsibilities, right? What are things that have to be scheduled? And so the thing that I would do is I would just do that. And honestly, for like work, working 40 hours a week, I would just kind of shade it in. You don't have to write in work. If that's what you want to do, you can, but you could just shade it in if you wanted to as accounted for time. And then so identify those irreversible responsibilities, and then we can look at the personal preferences. And so I want you to go through here and see what you can do for Chris, and make it a livable schedule. Like, don't sit there and stack everything on Saturday back to back to back to back, if that's something you wouldn't want to do, don't put that on this person. Consider that they're, depending on you to make a livable life. And so get those things in that have to be scheduled in. And so you have some leeway with the rest to see, can you fit it all in? If you can fit it all in, great. If you can't, what gets cut and why? So I'll let you work on that for a few minutes. Do we have any questions or anything in the chat box or anything? Are we good?
We're doing good. Lots of great information.
So remember the 5 things. The first thing, we're doing a calendar right now, so we're using number 1. Number 2, again, we're prioritizing as we fill this out. So we don't just want to start putting in things in the order that I have them on the screen. We want to prioritize and put the irreversible responsibilities first, right? Strategic, is there multitasking? Are there activities that Chris can combine that isn't making either effort deteriorate to the point where it's not being done well? So are there things that can be combined? Trying to prioritize self-care. Remember, it's the physical activity, eating healthy, getting quality sleep, that self-time, just to think and be a person. And then learning to say no. Is there things that you can eliminate altogether? Go back to the list again. One of the things about learning to say no, it is tough, but sometimes you can soften the blow by saying, is there an opportunity for a rain check? Can we do this at a different time? Is there an opportunity to reschedule? That way, at least you're showing that you're interested, but just whatever they propose at the moment will not work. So there's ways to soften the blow a little bit. Another thing that you might want to be mindful of, if you're saying no and you're saying no for a reason, and that's being kind of disputed, or you're kind of getting some pushback, why is that? You might that sometimes is a red flag of like, okay, well, what's going on that I'm not being respected. My time isn't being respected here. So it's just not an easy thing. So just understand that I know learning to say no is easier said than done. So one of the things I always find interesting with an activity like this is some of the creative, strategic multitasking that people come up with. If you want to put anything in the chat box that you'd like to share, I'm just always curious to see what people come up with, because it's always a learning opportunity for me whenever I do something like this. And I tend to just do random ones. I don't ever really reuse these consultant ones. I make up new ones. But it's always interesting to me what people say, oh, well, you could do this and this at the same time, and you know, it wouldn't be hurting either one of those things. And so it's always a learning opportunity. I found that the people who are most adept at this are moms. In particular, single moms. Forget about it. They'll be like, yeah, I got a whole day left over. What do you need? You know, but moms, for some reason, it's just, you know, it's not scientific. It's just my experience in doing this for a long time, that they're always just a little bit creative on, you know, how to incorporate different things at the same time. So may not hold true overall if you did a study on it, but that's just my experience. Does anybody have any examples they want to share?
One example that came in is go ahead and put those yearly events on your calendar, so that way you already have that in your mind. Or for work, if you do something annually or biannually, make sure you go ahead and place that on your calendar so it's kind of off your brain, and you'll know to come back to that.
For sure. So one example I might use is for 1 hour of walking each day. Some people will schedule that like in the morning or whatever before the day begins, because people kind of like to have an established routine where every day they you know, that's what they do. But it's also an opportunity that there's I think there's an activity where Chris is coaching, so that may be not so helpful there, but some of the other practices, they might be able to get some of the walking in during the practice. And so I know I see a lot of parents doing that. When I'm sitting in my car grading papers, I'll see other people doing laps around fields and stuff like that. That's just one simple way, but there's probably a lot more creative ways to create to combine some of these different things. So did you get everything to fit? We're kind of up against the clock here, so in the interest of time management, I'm not trying to run you guys over. but I'd be curious if you did everything, you went through that process, if everything fit, and if not, what did you cut? And why did you choose to cut those, right? And, why do you suppose doing this activity is easier than scheduling your own life? It's pretty, in this activity, you're objective. You're saying, well, Chris doesn't need to do that. Chris can cut that off, or Chris could do this. And it's a lot easier to kind of do that when it's outside of yourself than to be a little bit more discerning to yourself and say, you know what, I could really cut that. I don't have to do that. That would give me at least another half hour to get this other thing that's more of a priority. I put it on my list at a higher priority. And so if that's the case, I need to make room, and I need to cut something else to make room for that. So this is just an opportunity to kind of put you in that position of being objective on somebody else's time. And hopefully you can carry that over to yourself as well. So let's see. So again, just to review, use a calendar, prioritize, strategize, schedule self-care, learn to say no. Those are the top 5 ways. Okay, this is my list of sources that I use. So, and just want to thank you guys for attending. And then let's see, Kristen, is there anything I need to say about this slide? Is there any tricks or anything that they need to be aware of, or?
Yeah, no, I just posted it in the chat box, and you can click the link. We really appreciate any feedback you can give us for future programming. It always helps us to continue our programming, number one. And secondly, know what you enjoyed and what other programming you are looking to learn from. So you can click the link right there, or on your mobile phone, you can text survey 2718 to that phone number, and it will get you to go through the link also. So thank you very much for everyone's feedback. It really helps us in our programming.
So this is some of the other programs that we have going on. So the 23rd, Beating the Holiday Blues. So that's all I have, Kristen. If you've got anything else that you want to add.
No, just thank everyone for coming today, and we hope you can join us next week. Also know that we do have our program coming next week that Andrew just mentioned, but in December we will be taking a break, but we will come back to you with more programming on Mondays in January. So our first program in January is Smart Goals on January 4th. So we will see you then, and we hope that you register whenever we send out the registration links in the coming weeks.
Thanks, everyone.